So lately, when I've been thinking about trying something new as an artist or putting my art out there, and I feel that little bit of fear bubbling up inside of me, I've been trying to ask myself this question. Am I actually scared of trying, or am I scared of being seen trying? Hi, I'm Spencer. I'm a young adult author, and this channel is called Spencer Trying His Best, and it's where I document my creative journey. I like to talk about art and writing and the creative process. And in this video, I'm talking about this subject of being scared to put yourself out there and try something new, and it's because I'm in the process of trying something new. I was recently accepted to the Artist Alley in GalaxyCon Des Moines, and so this week I've been getting a bunch of art together because I'm going to be traveling to Iowa to sell my art. For those of you that don't know, at comic book and anime conventions, there's usually a section called Artist Alley, where a lot of independent artists sell their work. And it's something that has always fascinated me. It's quite frankly my favorite part of going to any convention is checking out Artist Alley and buying a bunch of art. The walls of my office are just full of prints that I've bought from artists at Artist Alley. It's always been something that I've been possibly interested in trying myself, but it was kind of intimidating. You know, I knew I'd have to create enough art, number one. I'd have to figure out how to create a small business. What does that look like? I knew it was going to be a lot of time. And so it's just something that for a long time I thought about and never really took too many actionable steps to make happen. But if you've been following this channel, you might know that I quit my job a few months ago. For 10 years, I was a legal secretary at a law firm. And for the past 3 months, I've been able to focus on more creative endeavors, specifically writing, but I knew that I also wanted to pursue trying to sell my art at conventions. So that's what I've been focused on and working toward. And now the first convention is here, and I'm pretty spooked, to be honest. But as I've been sitting with that feeling of being nervous and worried about how this might go, I know some of that is just general anxiety about doing this for the first time, trying something new. But I think also a big part of it is that fear of failing in front of others. I'm learning if you want to build a life in the arts that you have to do it publicly. And as an introvert, that's a hard truth for me to accept. Some of us envision life as that solitary writer who's out in a cabin in the woods and then just publishes their work and gets paid for it. That life doesn't really exist anymore. No matter what art you're doing, it seems like you always have to market it. You always have to put yourself out there on some level. I think for a lot of us, that feels cringy. It feels gross. It feels like you have to be a salesman. You're worried that you're being too pushy, but it's just part of the process. If you're anything like me, maybe you have no problem putting yourself out there when you're succeeding, right? Who doesn't love to succeed publicly? I want all my friends, and specifically my enemies, to know how well I'm doing when I'm succeeding. But when you're just getting started, that's a whole other story. And so now I'm getting all of this art together to sit at a table for hours in a convention hall where people will be publicly judging my art. Or maybe not judging, but at least, you know, looking at it, and I'll have to look at them looking at it, making a value judgment about it. And I know that this could be terrible. I could end up losing money. I could end up embarrassing myself. But I also know that I'd rather try and give it my best shot rather than just always wondering what if. So a big thing I've been doing today is trying to figure out what I want my table to look like at this Artist Alley. Like I said, I'm starting from scratch. I've never done this before, so I had to order a bunch of stuff to have a table set up. I had to order prints and stickers. This is what I've been focused on today. This is the setup that I'm working with. So I've got some bigger prints over here. This is gonna be full of stickers, and then I have a bunch of mini prints over here and my social media stuff up here. I'm really trying to find that balance between this looks good and professional, but also I didn't spend a ton of money on it, because I know there are really extravagant Artist Alley tables that look really great, but it's people who do this for their full-time job. And since this is my first time doing one, and I don't know how well it's gonna go, I don't know if I'm gonna do a bunch more, I didn't want to invest a ton of money into it. So anyway, I'm trying to find that balance between it looks good, but it also wasn't crazy expensive. Even now, I'm still fighting my own battles with having to put myself out there because I haven't told anyone that I'm like doing this Artist Alley. My wife has told people on my behalf, but I honestly haven't talked to anyone about it. I think there's still part of me that thinks I'm gonna drive all the way there and then they're gonna like look at some of my art and be like, no, this isn't good enough, even though, I had to submit my art to even apply. But yeah, I think there's part of me that just thinks I'm gonna get turned away, or this is just gonna go so bad and I'm never even gonna post this video. So why waste my time telling people about it? Like when I quit my job back at the beginning of the summer, I knew that this was something that I was interested in pursuing, like doing Artist Alley and selling my art. But I didn't mention that to anyone when I left my job. When they asked me why I was leaving, I talked primarily and almost exclusively about the fact that I just wanted more time to focus on writing. I think every once in a while I did sprinkle in other creative pursuits, by which I meant this, but I didn't really talk about this at all. And I really only talked about writing because I have a published novel, so it feels like I have some measure of success that I can point to. I already have something achieved in this field, so it's not embarrassing for me to talk about it. But it is challenging to talk about like wanting to do something like Artist Alley because I've never done it before. I have no idea how it's going to go. And also, not for nothing, but I was working at a law firm where it was a lot of professionals who were doing important legal work. So it did feel a little silly for me to talk about how I wanted to sell nerdy fan art to other nerds like me. Unfortunately, when it comes to being scared to put yourself out there, I don't really have a lot of great advice other than get over it, which sounds kind of harsh. It's basically just what I've been saying to myself, kind of recognizing that so many of the best things in life are just on the other side of fear, but you have to find the courage to step through that fear or step into that fear in order to get to those things. I think about when I wrote my first book, which got published in 2021. There's so many parts of that journey that I just didn't share with people because to me, I was like embarrassed to talk about it if the book was never going to be traditionally published. Which looking back is pretty silly. Some people knew that I was trying to write a book, but a lot of people didn't. I didn't make any sort of like announcement on social media when I got an agent, which is a huge step in the life of an author. I didn't really talk about that too much. I just kind of kept it all close to the vest because I didn't want anyone to see me trying. When I found out the book was going to be published, I certainly tried to talk about it because then it felt like it was at the point where I could. Even my parents, I didn't tell them that I was working on a book until I got an agent, which is kind of silly because there's so many people in my life who probably would have wanted to like support me and talk to me about it and encourage me. And I just sacrificed all of that in the name of my pride because I was so caught up in this concern of what if it doesn't happen? And it's not like I have people in my life who are going to like make fun of me, at least not to my face, not that I know of. I think there are some people who are like convinced they have haters or whatever that are like looking at their social media to make fun of them. But I don't know. I'm just like a normal guy pushing 40. I don't think there's people on my Instagram looking for things to make fun of me because of. I guess they could find stuff, Just being a 40-year-old man posting on Instagram is kind of embarrassing on some level. But I even look back at my social media now of like when I was trying to promote my book, when it was about to come out. And I was still probably only posting about it on average like once a week, which is kind of wild. Like I should have been talking about it all the time. I think I was worried about like what I said earlier, where I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to bombard people's feeds with just talk about my book. I don't want it to seem like I'm just bragging all the time. But you have to talk about your art. Like that's the only way people are going to find it. And like your friends that are maybe seeing the same posts all the time, they don't care. They're your friends. They probably want to support you. Yeah, the only real advice I have when it comes to like being scared to put yourself out there is just do it. Like it's okay to be seen trying, and it's okay to fail publicly. I think maybe a lot of us are like kids who grew up and were told like we were gifted or talented, and so now we've kind of carried that around and we feel like we keep having to be high achievers, but you don't have to. Sometimes you can fail and sometimes you can achieve, and that's just the circle of life. I think that's what The Lion King was about. I think it was about high achievers being willing to accept that sometimes that's not what The Lion King was about. I know. But anyway, put yourself out there because people want to support you.